This video is covering the point-slope formula for the equation of a line. But before we get started, we have our joke of the day. So who was the roundest knight at King Arthur's table? Circumference. So this is our point-slope formula, and it's another formula that you're going to need to memorize probably. So it is y minus y1 is equal to m times x minus x1. And the original y and the x those are the ones that are just supposed to stay there, like the y equals mx plus b. But that x1 and y1 that are in that equation is a point on the line. And so that is this one, x1 and y1. So of course watch those signs because they're both, minus in front of that. So make sure you don't drop a negative sign. Then m, as we learned in our last video, is always your slope. So m is the slope. And so that's all the information that we have to fill in on this equation in order to solve for the equation of a line. So if you're given a point and you know what the slope is, then you can use this equation to come up with or this formula to come up with the equation. And we learned last time that slope formula, which we should sort of have that one close to being memorized, is that y2 minus y1, the difference in our y values given 2 points on a line and the difference in our x values given 2 points on a line. So let's just go through an example. This one is going to be fairly easy. Find the formula of the equation of a line that passes through the point 2, -5, and has a slope of 6. So we know slope is m, so m is equal to 6 in our equation. A point on the line is 2, -5. So x1 is going to be 2 in our equation, and y1 will be -5 in our equation. And so all we're going to do is take this equation, y minus y1 is equal to m times x minus x1, and fill in this information. So we're going to have y minus our y1, which is -5, and that is equal to m, and m is 6 in this case, times x minus x1, which is 2 in this particular instance. Okay, so now let's go simplify and solve this formula. So y minus -5 means y plus 5. That's equal to, be sure that you distribute this to both of the terms inside those parentheses. So that is 6x minus 6 times 2, 12. All right, so that is our point-slope formula of this line. And now we're going to go ahead and come up with the actual equation, which is that y equals mx plus b. And that is our slope-intercept form. And the way that we do that is all we have to do is just move this 5 over. So remember, in our slope-intercept form, all we did was solve for y. Well, the only thing over here next to y is whatever that y1 was. So we're just going to, in this case, subtract 5 from both sides because that's a plus 5 in the equation. So we can only add that to like terms. So we're going to say minus 5 over here with that -12. It can't be joined with the 6x because they are not like terms. So this gives us y is equal to 6x minus 17. And that is the equation of the line. So that formula is not too bad as long as you know what to put in where. So let's try another example. Okay, we learned from our last video that we can solve for the slope given 2 points on the line. And so in this case, we're going to have to find out what the slope is first. So the first example, we were already given our slope, but this one we're going to have to solve for it first. So we know that the slope formula is y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. By now we should be sort of familiar with this after all of our homework from last time. So this is going to be my first one, x1, y1. This will be my second one, x2, y2. All right, so we're just going to go solve for slope here. So m, our slope, is equal to y2. Remember, difference in our y values. -6 minus the -1, which means +1. Then we're going to do the difference in our x values on the bottom. Remember, if we start with this y value, we've got to start with its corresponding x value. So -1 minus -2 means +2. Sorry, my dog does not like it when people walk by our front yard. So we have -6 plus 1. Sorry about that. All right, so -6 plus 1. That is -5. -1 plus 2 is over +1. So therefore, our slope is equal to just -5. All right, so now we know what the m is for this equation. We know our m is -5. Now we can use either one of these points for our point on the line, but let's just go ahead and use this first point. Usually I'll pick the easiest point, whichever one is like positives instead of negatives, but since that's not the case in either one of these, we will just use the first point given. So our x1 is going to be that -2, and our y1 will be that -1. And that's the information that we need for the point slope formula. So hence its name, point, one point on the line, one slope. Let me change one of these colors here so you can see us putting this in. All right, so here we go with our formula. Y minus y1, which is the -1, is equal to m, which is our -5 in this case, times x minus the x1, -2. Okay, so let's put this together. So this means y plus 1 is equal to, and make sure that we are distributing this, -5x. Okay, this makes plus 2, so times -5 makes -10. Whoops, I don't need that parenthesis there. Okay, so then to turn it into our slope-intercept form, the equation of the line, all we're going to do is subtract that 1 over to the other side. So y is equal to -5x minus 11. And so I just did one example of that, but that will be sort of what most of your homework will look like. And so feel free to watch that, repeat your videos as much as you need to make sure you get that. If you have any questions at all, make sure that you ask them on Slack for all of us to help answer, or send me some emails or whatever you need. Okay, so parallel lines. So remember that our parallel lines have the same slope. So when I say parallel, you should automatically be thinking same slope. So in this case, we're going to write the equation of a line that passes through this point, -2, 5, and it's parallel to the line with the equation y is equal to 3x plus 1. All right, well, this y equals 3x plus 1 is an original line. So y is equal to 3x plus 1. Well, what do we need to know about that original line in order to create its parallel line? Well, we need to know what the slope of the original line is. Well, the slope of that original line is 3. So the parallel line slope will also be 3 because they have the same slope. So if we're going to put this information in the point slope formula, we know that our m is going to be 3. We know that a point on the line is at -2, 5. So we're going to say, and we'll try to color code this again. So our x1 here for our equation will be -2, and our y1 in the equation will be 5. Okay, so that's the information we're going to use to fill out the formula, the point slope formula. So again, y minus y1 is equal to m times x minus x1. Okay, so y minus y1, which was our 5, is equal to m, which is 3 in this case, times the x minus x1, which was our -2. All right, so we're going to go distribute that 3. So y minus 5 is equal to 3x plus 6. Make sure this 3 gets distributed to everything inside those parentheses. So then, in order to solve, we have this minus 5 over here, so we have to add 5 to both sides to move him over. And we're going to get the equation now, y is equal to 3x plus 11. And that is that one. All right, so now let's do one with a perpendicular line. So remember that our perpendicular lines have opposite reciprocal slopes. So perpendicular, remember that means change the sign and flip the fraction. All right, so we're given, write the equation of a line that passes through -2, -6, and is perpendicular to this equation. Well, this equation, we need to know what is the slope of x plus 3y is equal to 12. Well, remember, that is standard form. So we have to put it in that y equals mx plus b to know what the slope is, because that's the only one that shows us what m is. So let's think about, let's see, we've got to solve this. So let's move our x over, and that gives us 3y is equal to -x plus 12. Then we have to divide every term by 3. So y is equal to -1/3 x plus 4. Well, the slope of the original line is what? The -1/3. So what's the slope then of its perpendicular line? Remember, opposite reciprocals. Well, my slope of my original line is -1/3. So the slope of my perpendicular line has to be positive. Remember, opposite sign first. Then we're going to flip that fraction. So 1/3, we're going to flip that to be 3/1, which is just 3. So in this instance, our m is going to be 3 because that's the slope of the perpendicular line to that original line. Now we're going to go use the point that we were given. So x1 is equal to, and here's the point that we were given, -2, -6. So x1 is -2. And y1 will be our -6. And so we're going to go fill in our point slope formula. So y minus our y1, which is -6. Remember, negative times that negative makes it positive there. is equal to m, which is 3, times x minus our x1, which is negative 2, so plus 2. Change that to a positive. Okay, so now we're just ready to go distribute our 3 to both terms inside those parentheses. So y plus 6 is equal to 3x plus 6. And then we need to move this 6 over to solve for y. So since it's positive 6, we have to use the opposite. And so that's minus 6 on both sides, giving us the final equation y is equal to just 3x. And if you put 3x plus 0, that's fine. Or y is equal to 3x. Either one is fine. But probably just this is probably the most appropriate, but it doesn't matter. Okay, so that's that. Be sure to watch this video over and over again if you need to. Hopefully you'll understand using the point slope formula.